The next guest leaps tall buildings in a single bound. He pulls money out of you don't even know where. I don't have a longer introduction. I just have that this guy is Money Man Dan. And we are talking about financial advice that you can count on. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dan.
So, today's topic is the elephant in the room, uh, talking about the summer outlook. So, talk to me about where rates are headed this over this next quarter.
This is a question I get a lot of times with buyers, especially first-time buyers, and really what's happening is rates are trending downward, which is a good thing. We've seen what they can do, the havoc they can wreak on the market as they jumped up as they did late last year and through the beginning of this year. So it's nice to finally see some relief. Many clients will find right now that you may be able to qualify for more than you were able to qualify for a year ago. Definitely a good time to find out that information.
Yeah, I think that's actually a different point than most people are hearing or seeing is oh, rates are high, rates are high, rates are high. Well, so you're telling me they're lower than they were back in October, November. Is that right?
They're headed that direction. I mean, we're down below 7% now, which is excellent from most cases. And we keep seeing a lot of the green candlesticks on the bond market, which means we're headed the right direction. Now, how long it's going to take?
Green candlesticks. Is that a legal? Is that a formal term? Is that jargon? What's a green candlestick?
It's a technical term. No, when you look at the bond market and what the um, bond yields are doing, there usually is either a red or a green candlestick is what we refer to kind of look at the direction the bond market is going. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of green. Green is a good thing for us in the 30-year bond market.
Okay, all right. So why do you see or perceive that interest rates are headed in the downward trajectory?
So a common misconception that people have is that because they keep hearing about the Fed raising the overnight federal funds rate, which is what is used to change the rate at which banks borrow money from one another, as that goes up, the uh, interest rates on variable loans such as student loans, home equity lines of credit, credit cards, things like that goes up. So the cost of borrowing money actually becomes more expensive for the average consumer. So what we're seeing is that continue to rise, which slows down the economy. The idea is to not slam the brakes in the economy, but to slow the economy down gradually. And there's, depending on who you talk to and where people think that the Fed has done a good job or not so good a job. So far we seem to be navigating those waters okay. But I think that as that happens, inflation is going to continue to come down, and inflation and interest rates run parallel with one another typically. So as inflation comes down, interest rates will drop. The question is how fast are we going to see relief? It's only time will tell, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that lenders over the last 8 to 9 months have gotten really creative
Mhm.
with how they structure the financial packages, knowing that things are changing all the time. What are
Right.
you doing to help buyers and sellers right now?
So Guild Mortgage offers a 1-0 buy down, which is a temporary 1% lender paid buy down for the first year. And with doing that, it allows the seller to not have to give up their seller concessions as much or at all in many cases. But it also allows the consumer to be able to buy a property at a lower interest rate, which in turn helps everybody win, right? It helps the markets keep moving, houses not have to drop their prices to be able to be competitive and get purchased easily. But the buyer also feels like they're getting a good deal. With this, once that first year is up, it goes to whatever the current rate is that they had purchased at. We had qualified them at that rate. It's very predictable as opposed to just a adjustable rate mortgage that is kind of at the mercy of the markets.
Okay, so I've heard of 2-1 buy downs, 3-1 buy downs. I've never heard of a 1-0 buy down. Unpack that for me.
So a 3-2-1 buy down and a 2-1 buy down both are seller paid concessions that allow the buyer to temporarily buy down the interest rate. The 1.0 let me back up. The 3.21 and the 2.1 are 3-year and 2-year packages of interest rate reductions. The
Yep.
1.0 buy down is a 1-year reduction, but it's lender paid. So there's no negotiating between the buyer and the seller on it. It makes it a lot easier to be able to take care of everybody involved. Nobody has to get into an intense negotiation on it.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So there's an option I hadn't heard. There was some other, I've heard the other ones. I'd never heard that. Okay, cool. So how about winning with multiple offers? I mean, I have some tricks that I can do from a real estate agent standpoint, but how can you, as the lender, help the borrower in a multiple offer situation?
So the multiple offer situation, which is kind of the market we're headed into right now, is a very tricky road to navigate. Oftentimes, what we look at is giving up everything from obviously your seller concessions, things like that, that make it kind of level playing field. But the big one the lender is able to do is we are able to help mitigate the risks for the client while they are um, waiving contingencies. You have multiple contingencies that you can waive that are kind of your exit strategy because of the way that we run the file through processing, through underwriting, and get you so far through the process on it. We're able to do things like waive financing and know that there's nothing that's going to fall through. We're not causing them any unnecessary risk. And that's something that we've kind of tailored here at Guild, especially in Bellevue, to be able to figure out how to put you in the strongest position possible without increasing your risk.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to why somebody, if they're considering the spring purchase, why they should get their ducks in a row and talk to somebody like you sooner than
Absolutely.
later. Because a
Absolutely.
lot of those, a lot of the big uncertainty comes, and I've had this happen with buyers of mine where they're like, I don't want to waive any of these contingencies because I don't have the confidence because we
Mhm.
haven't given all of our paperwork to our lender. We've still got to do X, Y, Z. We got to find out where our down payment's coming from. And if you wait to do that until you find the house, you are putting that negotiation in jeopardy, which is
You are
all the more reason because correct me if I'm wrong, but you can do what we call complete underwriting. Like the only thing you're waiting for is an appraisal on a house, right?
correct. And that's how we
So,
do
so
most of our
everything has
files.
been validated. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
Assets, credit, income, all of that. We're literally waiting on an appraisal. In some cases, we even get an appraisal waiver, which makes it even easier for us to be able to close the deal rather quickly. 14-day close is not out of the question, which is another thing you can do to help win in a multiple offer
Yeah.
market. But I think that working with a partner that you can trust, that has taken your file far enough through the process that you know that the risks are essentially mitigated, and that we have your back. I mean, we do things to make sure that you are in the safest position possible, but ultimately we want to make sure the strongest offer goes to the table. And we're quite honestly, we'll beat cash offers in some cases.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. It definitely, the other part of it too and I don't want to bash any big banks that rhyme with Wells Fargo. I'm not bashing them. They have their place. However, like being able to have somebody in an evening or a weekend, somebody like yourself from Guild that you can text them a quick question. You can pop in and look in the file. You're not working banker's hours. It makes a
Right.
difference too. And it makes a difference to the seller's agent
Mm-hmm.
100%. I can
And
tell
it does.
you if I'm looking at 3 files here, and we just had one fall apart that rhymes with Wells Fargo, that I can't just call the agent. I called him several times, and all he would ever do is email back. And that in the like
That
right
doesn't do
now
anybody
going
any
forward,
good.
yeah, if somebody like that, if somebody brings me a pre-approval letter from that, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. Let's make a paper airplane out of this. It's useless. And I don't mean any disrespect because I have worked really well with Wells Fargo in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So full disclaimer, I'm not just trying to throw them under the bus, but it depends. And
Mm-hmm.
for you guys, your job 100% is to get people qualified. So
Absolutely.
and get them. Actually, let me rephrase that. Your job is to get it done, and that's what we're
Exactly.
looking for. Yeah.
Get
All
them through
right.
the finish line.
Um, yeah. Is there any other prod? I think we talked about the 1.0, which is brand new. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. How do people get a hold of you?
You can either reach me at the 425-239-0788 phone number on the screen, or feel free to follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Moneyman Dan on both platforms.
Money Man Dan. All right, Dan. Thank you so much for coming in. After this short break, we're going to talk to the doctor, whose name is very hard for me to pronounce, and I'm going to try and practice several times after this. Come back after this short commercial break.